Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. So we're continuing with the story of Prophet Ibrahim, and his name in English in the Bible is Abraham, and his two sons are directly connected to his story. So we're going to be mentioning them as well. It's Ismail, it's Ishmael in English, and Ishaq is Isaac. So the story begins in ancient Mesopotamia. And Mesopotamia is known as the land modern day Iraq. And in ancient Mesopotamia at that time, people were worshipping idols. This is thousands of years ago. And one of the people who worshipped these idols was a man by the name of Azar. And Azar, he had a son named Ibrahim. And Ibrahim, at a pretty young age, realized that something is wrong with worshipping idols. Even though he was fairly young, he knew that something was not right. And then eventually he became an adult. And once he became an adult, he used to go, and even when he was a kid, he would question his father. And he thought it's very strange. Why are we praying to these statues? These statues can't answer our prayers. They can't even move. They can't even speak. So why would we be praying to these statues? So eventually Ibrahim grew up, and he started questioning his father even more. And he said, he used to say things like, very respectfully, he would say, my dear father, why are you worshiping these idols? It just doesn't make any sense. But the standard response of his father was, he would get mad. He would get angry at him. He didn't say, he's like, why are you questioning me? This is what we're supposed to be doing. So when people don't have a good response, when they don't have a good answer to an important and a good question, the natural response is to just get mad because you don't have any explanation. So Ibrahim kept on trying to convince his father for a long time. He said, look, these idols don't listen to you. When you call them, are they answering you? Are they really benefiting you? Can they really even harm you at all? This doesn't make sense. So then Ibrahim went to his people, and he would go to his people and he would call them and say, what? Why are you guys doing this? And their answer was standard, the same answer that we've seen in previous peoples. Their response was, well, our ancestors used to do this. It was good enough for us. We're going to do exactly what we grew up doing. Our family grew up doing it. Our parents did it. Our grandparents did it. But that's not a good enough answer for Ibrahim. So Ibrahim used to respond, and he's like, do you people even realize what you're doing? Do you even understand what you're doing? He says, you and your ancestors, you're wrong. You're simply mistaken. So Ibrahim was one of those people who grew up questioning the culture in which he grew up in. And he would go and he would confront people. And he would be respectful with them. He would be nice with them, especially with his own father. But he would be asking the right questions about the world in which he grew up in. So one day, Ibrahim, when he was already a young man, he's not like a little kid or something like that. He's a young man now, maybe late teens, maybe early 20s. He came up with an idea. And this idea was that maybe people will realize their mistake if they understand that their idols have no actual power. So his goal was, I'm going to break these idols, and I'm going to show people how helpless these idols actually are, because they can't even help themselves. But how's he going to do that? People are always going to this temple. They had a temple where all the idols were, and people would go and worship the idols. And he's saying, if I go into the temple and if I do something, these people are going to kill me. So they're really addicted to idol worship. So they say, how dare you do this? And his life would be in danger. So he had to come up with the plan. So he came up with the plan. So there was a festival that they would have. They would have like this annual, maybe seasonal festival. And everyone would go out to celebrate during this festival. We would have all the markets set up and everything like that. So one day, on the day of the festival, Ibrahim's father came to him and he said, hey, why don't you come with us? Everyone's going out. Why aren't you getting ready to go to the festival today? And Ibrahim responded and he said, I'm sick. Now, Ibrahim didn't want to lie. Nobody in Islam, no Muslim should ever lie. But there was no other way to accomplish two things at the same time. He's trying to explain to his people why idol worship is wrong, and he's trying to save his own life. because his life is going to be in danger if they find out that he's the one who broke the idols. So they'd probably kill him if they found out. So the only reason why he said this in this context is because he was trying to protect himself. And so Ibrahim, even though he was lying, he was still very cautious about how he was doing it. He used wording that's literally true. So what he meant was, when he said, I'm sick, he meant that he's sick of people praying to these idols. Right? So you have to, number one, be careful about what you say. And number two, you have to have a very, very good reason, like your life is in danger, like Prophet Ibrahim. So normally, even using true language would count as a lie. This is an exception to the rule. Okay, so we have to be very careful before we say, I'm like Ibrahim, yeah, I'm sick. Teacher, I couldn't turn in my homework because I was sick. What I meant was, I'm so sick and tired of this class. No, it's not going to work. That's a lie. So be very careful about trying to apply this in your own life. So once the people, they left and they went to their festival, he went to the temple where the idols were stored and people would worship there. And so he walked in and he saw all the idols in one room. So this was part of his plan. And he went to them, he started joking. He's like, hey idols, can you guys hear me? Why don't you guys respond? Look at all this food. People would leave food. They would leave like valuables for the idols in front of them. And even today, even idol worshippers, they still put food in front of the idol. And they say the idol is eating the food spiritually, and then they throw it away or something like that. So Ibrahim, same thing. He encountered the same thing and he's like, look, there's this food. Why don't you guys eat this food? And of course, what did the idols say? Nothing. Because they can't talk. They can't respond. They have no power at all. So Ibrahim that was just kind of like, he's been waiting to get this out. And he knows the idols can't do anything. So then he continued with this plan. So he brought with him an axe. And he took out this axe and he started smashing all the idols one by one, breaking every single one of the idols in the temple, except one. He left one idol, and that was the largest idol that they had in the temple. And he took the axe and he left it right next to the largest idol. It's all part of his plan. So the people now, they come home from the festival and they go to the temple and they start praying again, because before they leave, they go to the temple. When they come back, they go and they thank the idols for protecting them, that they were able to go out far away and nothing happened to them. So they'd go back and they would go straight to the temple to worship these idols. So they were shocked. They saw all these idols smashed, and imagine how they reacted. They were like furious. And they're like, who did this to our gods? Who would dare do something like this? Now Ibrahim thought that, you know what, okay, probably no one would recognize it was him, but there was one guy who came forward and said, you know what, I remember I heard this young man, his name was Ibrahim. He's not even well known. I remember this guy named Ibrahim. He was saying some bad things and it seemed like he might have been plotting something. Maybe it was him. So then they went and they found out. And they said, oh yeah, Ibrahim didn't actually come to the festival. How many other sick people were there? Maybe a few people stayed behind. But he was one of them. And somebody had heard him saying some stuff about the idols, because he was going around telling everyone that, hey, you shouldn't be worshiping idols, this and that. So somebody basically gave his name. So the people who were the leaders, they went and they called Ibrahim. And they said, come, we want to question you. We're going to interrogate you. We want to find out what happened. So they asked us, did you do this to our idols? Are you the one who broke these idols? Because you've been talking bad about them. We have a witness that says you've been saying stuff about them. And so Ibrahim responded. He said, actually, see this big one? This big idol, he's the one who did it. He probably got mad, this big idol. He's got a little jealous. He destroyed everybody. He killed all the other idols. And the people were like, come on, you know idols can't talk. He says, ask him. I'm telling you, ask him and he'll tell you that that's what happened. And of course, they're like, idols can't speak. So Ibrahim, again, this is an opportunity for him to speak to the leaders, because they all gathered together. Normally, you can't just walk up to a leader of an important town in Mesopotamia and just speak to them one by one. This was his opportunity. So he said, you know what? If they can't speak, then why do you pray to them? If they can't even help themselves, they can't help anyone else, they can't harm anyone else, this doesn't make any sense at all. So for a moment, just for a moment, the people thought, they said, you know what? Maybe he has a point. But that moment didn't last very long. And what happened? But our parents and our grandparents and our reputation, and this is our religion, and this is our temple. And immediately they just became furious, and they're like, no. They just got mad. And so they basically put him under arrest. And they had a meeting. And they said, this guy is the one who did it. What are we going to do to him? What are we going to do to Ibrahim? He's humiliated our gods. He's humiliated our religion. We got to do something. So one of the people said, you know what? Let's burn him. We're going to burn him alive. And this is the best way to avenge our gods. We need to get revenge. Because our idols have been destroyed. We need revenge. How do we get him in the worst way? We're going to burn him alive. You know, beheading him, not good enough. Executing him some other way, not good enough. We're going to burn him alive, and we're all going to watch. So what did they do? They lit this huge fire. Right? They lit a fire, and they grabbed Ibrahim, and they threw him in the fire. Now at this time, Ibrahim had already been in communication with Allah. Allah has already chosen him to be a prophet. So Allah manifested a miracle to protect Ibrahim. What did Allah do? He made that fire not burn. So Allah gives the burning quality to the fire. It's not like it has intrinsic quality by itself. Anything that we see a cause and effect, it can only happen if Allah allows it to happen. Because Allah made these things. And Allah can take away the fire's ability to burn. He can take away ice's ability to freeze or to be cold. He can change anything in the world that He wants. So Allah took the ability of that fire to burn away, and when Ibrahim landed in the fire, it became cool for him. So he's sitting there in the fire, he's just chilling, air conditioned, enjoying himself more than the other people who are outside the fire, because they're probably like feeling some heat or something like that. So everything was great. Ibrahim did not get hurt at all. So the people saw a miracle, just like the people of the past. People in the past, people of Saleh, they saw a miracle. Other people saw miracles. They saw a miracle, and what should they have done? They should have said, oh man, Ibrahim is a real messenger of Allah. He's telling the truth. We should stop worshipping these idols. But they still rejected him. They rejected him, and they said, no, it doesn't matter. Even if we see a miracle in front of us, it doesn't matter. So eventually, it still didn't work. People saw this miracle, it didn't work. So what happened then? Then there was a powerful king who ruled over all these regions, including the city where Prophet Ibrahim was. So this king summoned Ibrahim. When he found out, he kind of heard what happened, and he heard that Ibrahim doesn't want to worship idols, and he heard that Ibrahim doesn't want to worship the king. People would worship the king too, and they would bow down in front of the king. So he says, okay, this guy, the people in the city are saying there's something going on with this guy. Don't know the exact story. I'm going to summon him over to my court. So this king, and this king's name was Nimrod. This is the title that we know from historical sources. He was a very cruel king. He was a tyrant, and people, he used to make them bow down in front of him. So when the king found out that Ibrahim, he's not going to worship idols, he's not going to bow down in front of the king, and something else happened in the city, he said, I want this guy in front of me, and I want to talk to him. So when Ibrahim arrived, because he had to, when the king calls you, you have to come. So he came, and he asked him, he said, Ibrahim, who do you pray to? And Ibrahim said, I pray to Allah. So the king said, who is Allah? Who is this Allah? We never heard this before. And again, he's speaking his own language, but he's talking about the one God who created everything. So he said, Ibrahim says, and keep in mind, this conversation is being held in public. Other people are listening. So Ibrahim responds, and he says, Allah is the one who gives life and causes death. So Ibrahim, basically he wanted to make the king understand that Allah can do something that the king cannot do. Because the king wants other people to pray to him and worship him. And the king is a little bit better than an idol because at least he can speak. But he doesn't have any other power, real power. So Ibrahim mentioned specifically, he said, who is Allah? Allah is the one who can give life and cause death. And he was basically saying, well, you can't do that. That's why I'm not going to pray to you. I'm going to pray to the one who can give life and cause death. So what did the king respond? The king was arrogant. And he responded, he said, I give life and I cause death too. So he meant something else. he had a bunch of people in his prison. And he said, I can call 2 prisoners right now, and I can let one of them go free, and I can have the other one executed right here in front. So I could give life to one, and I can give death to the other one. So I have the power to do that too. So what are you talking about? So he said, I can do the same thing. Now Ibrahim knew, he's like, this king is being silly. This is not what he means. So Ibrahim, he could have responded. And he could have said, you know what, king, that's not what I meant. Only Allah can give life to something that has no life, that lifeless matter. He could have said, can you make this rock alive? Right? But Ibrahim didn't want to go down this argument. He said, you know what, there's no need to keep on arguing about this point. What did he do? He switched to a different point. And he said, okay, if you think that, well, let me tell you what Allah can do. Allah makes the sun rise from the east. Why don't you make it rise from the west? And the people around him were listening. And the king knows it. I can't even try to perform some trick where it looks like that's happening. So the king was shocked. He couldn't think of any type of answer. And so he was quiet, and he was embarrassed, and he didn't know what to say. And again, it's not that the king, sometimes you're not even talking to the king, because he's probably so arrogant. In this case, he's so arrogant, he's not going to listen. But the other people around the court who are paying attention, some of them will see this conversation, and they might start to say, you know what? The king has no good answers. Ibrahim has a point. So the actual calling to Allah into the true religion is not only for the king, it's for all the other people who are witnessing this conversation. So then Ibrahim, this is fast forward. Again, we see some snippets in the life of these prophets. Ibrahim goes back to his father again later on. And he tries to convince his father one more time. He decides, he says, I can't stay here anymore. He said, let me just call my father one last time towards the truth. So he goes and he says, my dear father, don't pray to these idols. Now keep in mind, when Ibrahim is speaking to his father, even though he's telling him that he's wrong about something, very, very wrong, he's still respectful. He's still using my dear father. He's not saying, you tyrant, or he's not using mean language. He's still respectful, but he's firm in what he's saying because it's the truth. So he tells his father, don't worship these idols. You should only be praying to Allah. And he loved his father a lot. And his father did not want to listen. So what did his father do instead? His father used to just get mad all the time. Now Ibrahim wants to leave. So now his father says, you know what? Don't make me beat you. I'm going to hit you. If you keep on bothering me with the same message, I'm sick and tired of this. I will actually physically hit you. Just leave me alone. I don't even want to talk. Don't even talk to me from now on. Like you're not my son anymore. So Ibrahim was very patient with his father for a long time. His father did not want to hear any of this. So finally, he decided it's time to leave. So he told his father, peace be with you. He said salam to his father. He said, I'm leaving this town. I'm going to be out of here, and I'm just going to ask Allah for help. Because none of you are listening. None of you want to stop this idol worship. So Ibrahim left, and he started making dua to Allah. He started praying to Allah. And what did he ask Allah for? Despite all of this, his father's being stubborn. His father used to get mad. His father threatened to beat him up. His father boycotted him and won't talk to him anymore. What does Ibrahim do? He starts praying to Allah. He says, oh Allah, forgive my father. I want you to forgive my father. He's gone down the wrong path. He's followed the wrong way. And he's basically saying, it's going to be embarrassing to see my father being punished on the Day of Judgment. So don't punish him. Just spare him because he's my father. So the reason why Ibrahim did that, why did Ibrahim even make this prayer? Because he knows you're not really supposed to do that. Because you can't ask Allah for an exception. But because when Ibrahim left his father and he was saying salam, he told his father, he said, I'm going to pray that Allah doesn't punish you. So out of love, he just said that in the moment. So he said, I have to fulfill what I told my father. Sometimes when you see people, you're like, hey, Assalamu alaikum, how's it going? Okay, I'll see you later. Hey, remember me in your prayers, okay? And you go, yeah, sure, no problem. Assalamu alaikum. And you don't think anything of it. And you forget it, and you don't even fulfill it. You just said it, and you're like, not a big deal. Ibrahim is a person of his word. He doesn't just say things and says, yeah, yeah, sure. Hey, remember, can you pray for me at nighttime one time? Sure, no problem, got it. Most people will be like, whatever, man, it's fine. Inshallah, he'll be fine. No, Ibrahim, if he says something, he's going to do it. So because he told his father this, just in the spur of the moment, he said, I have to do it. So therefore, he asked Allah for this exception. But he knows that it was wrong for him to ask that. Why is it wrong for him to ask that? Because anyone who rejects Allah deserves to be punished. And Allah decides who gets forgiven and who doesn't get forgiven. So what did Allah do? Allah communicated with Ibrahim. And he said, when he made this dua for his father, he said, don't ask that from me. This is not an appropriate request. You should, not only am I not going to grant your dua, it was wrong of you to even ask for that. Because some things you don't ask for. You're not allowed to ask for something that goes and overrides the way in which Allah judges. If someone were to make a dua and say, oh Allah, I want you to send all the people who worship idols straight to paradise. And I want you to send all the good people to hell. What kind of dua is that? You're not supposed to make a dua like that. This is something that's against the principles of how Allah is teaching us that He judges people. So Ibrahim realized his mistake. He said that was wrong. And he asked Allah to forgive him for even asking Allah to make that exception for his father. Because he wasn't supposed to. He could have simply said, oh Allah, guide my father. Oh Allah, get my father to stop doing these things. That's fine. But you can't ask Allah, even if he keeps on worshipping idols, even if he insults you, oh Allah, just overlook it and grant him the highest level of paradise. It's not appropriate to ask something like that. So he realized his mistake. And then so Ibrahim left his city. And he went to another city. And he was on his way. They say that he went to a place called Haran. And he met a group of people. And this group of people, they were praying to the stars. And they were praying to the moon. And they were praying to the sun. So Ibrahim, he wanted to explain to these people why it's wrong. So they probably had some idols too. But some people, they worship idols. Some people, they worship the cosmos, the stars and the sun and the moon. And some do a mixture of both. So Ibrahim, he said, okay, I'm going to try to convince these people. He was just passing by. So I'm going to try to convince these people why it doesn't make sense. So at night, he saw a star. And people were around. And he said, listen guys, he saw a crowd of people. He said, you know what? This star is my God. You guys are right. I should have been praying to this star the whole time. And he's just pretending. He's trying to make a point. And later on, the star fades away and you can't see it anymore. And he goes, no, actually guys, listen, I was mistaken. That can't be my God. It went away, it's gone. And then later on, after a little while, the moon became visible. And then he said, hey guys, listen, this moon must be my God. So we got to be praying to this moon. And then after a while, the moon set, it went away. And he said, no, guys, I can't be praying to the moon. It doesn't make sense. The moon went away. And then in the morning, when the sun rose, he went to the same people and he's like, listen guys, I know what it is. I understand why you're doing what you're doing. This sun is so big, so powerful. It must be my God because it's bigger than all the other ones. And then the sun set. And later on he went back and he says, the sun is gone. Why are we praying to the sun? This doesn't make any sense. This is not my God. He said, actually, Allah is my Lord. Allah's alive. Allah never dies. None of these things can help me. They're weak. These things go away. So basically, Ibrahim knew that Allah is the Lord and the creator of the sun and the stars and the moon. And he's trying to convince these people by pretending like, oh, this is why you guys worship it. Okay, let me try to worship it along with you guys. And then he's trying to convince them, this doesn't make any sense. Why are we doing this? So he tried to convince these people. And we don't know exactly if some people accepted or some people didn't. He was just passing through the city. He conveyed the message. So first, he's addressed idol worshippers of why we shouldn't be worshipping idols. Then he addressed star worshippers, star and moon worshippers, why we shouldn't be praying to these stars. Ibrahim left and he kept on traveling to different cities and he's going to keep on calling more and more and more people to the cause of Allah, to the true religion of Allah. So he's a prophet and he's communicating with Allah. So one day, he asked Allah. He said, Allah, can you show me how you bring the dead back to life? So Allah asked Ibrahim, he says, are you doubting that I can do it? Don't you believe that I can do it? And Ibrahim answered, he said, no, of course I'm not doubting. I just want to see it myself so that I can increase, I can be more sure about it, so that my faith will be even stronger. So why is Allah having a conversation with Ibrahim? Allah already knows that Ibrahim is not doubting. So why did Allah ask? Allah asked him because He wanted to teach him how to properly ask a question that can't be misunderstood by others. So when Ibrahim said, can you give life to the dead? Can you show me how you give life to the dead? Allah wanted to teach him a lesson that if he asks a question like that in front of other people, they might misunderstand it. So He said, use clear language so that other people can't misunderstand you. That's why they had this conversation. Ibrahim explained. He goes, no, I want to see this. Of course, Allah, you know that I'm not doubting you. I believe, but I want to see the process by which it happens. So Allah actually answered his request. And Allah said, okay, I'm going to accept your request. I'm going to tell you to do something. You're going to go and you're going to get 4 birds. And you're going to train these birds. And that whenever you call them, they're going to come to you. So if you buy some birds, it takes a little while to train them. And once they become trained, you can, if any of you have ever had birds, you call the bird and the bird will come to you, depending on the type of bird you have. And when you put out your hand, it'll come and eat from you. And if it's not trained, it doesn't know you very well, the bird is not gonna, accept you. It takes a while to train it. So Ibrahim did it. And he got 4 birds and he trained them. And these birds, anytime he would call these birds, they would come flying. These are larger birds. They're not like little tiny parakeets or something. These are larger birds. And they would come, and whenever he would call, like a whistle or something, they would come. So they knew that Ibrahim is the owner. When he calls, you come. So they were trained. And then Allah said, okay, now that the birds are trained, you're going to kill these birds. You're going to slaughter them, and you're going to cut them into pieces. He's not going to have a barbecue, right? It's not for him to eat. You're going to cut them, and then you're going to mix all the pieces together. And then you're going to take some of these pieces, and you're going to put them on 4 different hills that are around you. Ibrahim was traveling. So he did that. He took the 4 birds, slaughtered them, he cut them up, he mixed them all together, and he put, now it's like, imagine, part of this bird, it's all mixed in chunks. And now he goes, and he puts some of the birds on one hilltop. Goes to another, puts some of the birds over there. He goes to another, he puts some of the birds over there. And then Allah told him, once you've done that, you're going to call the birds to come back to you. Now he had to basically stand away for a while. And as soon as Ibrahim called the birds, all 4 of those birds came directly back to Ibrahim. Allah was able to reassemble the birds from one side, from another side. You can imagine, we don't know what Ibrahim saw, whether he was able to see some kind of 3D animation, all of a sudden they come together and then reassemble, and then they're coming on their way. But it's very clear to Ibrahim that no random 4 birds would come because they're not trained. This had to be the exact same 4 birds that he had trained, that when he calls them, they're going to come. No other random 4 birds could have been a setup or something like that. So Ibrahim now was shocked. And he saw the power of Allah, but he saw it right in front of his eyes. So this is exactly what he wanted to see for himself. No one else was watching. This is just for Ibrahim. So Ibrahim realized, and he knew already, but he realized even more. He says, you know what? It's easy for Allah to recreate something that He created the first time, even if the parts are all scattered around. So if you think about this makes logical sense. Is that if Ibrahim believes that Allah created everything, Allah created the birds from scratch. Now the birds are alive and they died and there's still pieces of them. Allah can recreate from existing dead birds compared to creating from scratch when there's absolutely nothing. So which one is easier? The second one's easier. The first one is more difficult because you have nothing to work with. So he knew that, and this just strengthens Ibrahim. This is one request that Ibrahim had for Allah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him and answered him that request for him. So to Makkah. So then Ibrahim decides it's time to move on. So he wanted to go to a place where he can freely tell people, you should only worship Allah. You should not worship any idols. So Ibrahim, at that time, he didn't have any child. So he prayed to Allah. He asked Allah and he said, you know what? Grant me a righteous child. So Allah answered his request and he granted him his first son. And his first son was named Ismail. And later on, Allah told him, now I want you to go to the valley of Mecca with your wife. His wife was Hajar. Hagar is the English name. And he said, I want you to go to this valley called Mecca. At that time it used to be called Bakka, which is really difference in letter. And you're supposed to go with your wife, Hajar, and you're supposed to go with your son, Ismail. And you're going to go there. Now what's in Mecca? Allah's telling him, go to this valley called Mecca. So he goes there. In Mecca there's nothing. Nobody lives there. There are no people. There's no animals. There's no trees. There's no water. Mecca is like a valley with nothing there. That's why nobody wants to live there. But what does Ibrahim do? Ibrahim said, if this is what Allah wants me to do, this is what I'm going to do. So he goes to Mecca. And after a short while, he left his wife and his child, Ismail, there all alone. Because Allah told him, now leave. You're going to leave them there and you're going to leave. So after on his way out, he made a dua. Asked Allah, he said, oh Allah, protect my family and bless this land. Bless this area of Mecca. Bless this place, it's just desert. But he says, make this a prosperous place. Because Ibrahim knew that Allah had a plan. So Ibrahim's gone and he leaves. Hajar and her son Ismail are by themselves. Eventually, they had some food and water with them. Eventually, they started running out of food. They started running out of water. So Hajar now, she starts looking for some people who are passing by that might be able to help them. So she's going and she goes up one hill. And this hill is called Safa. So she goes up the hill and she's looking as far as she can see. Is there any caravan, any people passing by that maybe can come and we can call them and they'll come and help us and bring us some food? Because she's out in the middle of nowhere and she's running low on food. She couldn't find anyone. So then she walks all the way across to another hilltop to see, and this hilltop is called Marwa. And she sees she can see anyone in the distance. She can't see anyone. So she kept praying to Allah. So, oh Allah, help me. And she kept going around back and forth from one hill, Safa, to the other hill, Marwa, and looking back and forth if she can find anyone that might be passing by, because they would have some food and they would have some water, because people travel through this land. So she was hoping that she's going to be able to find someone. Finally, she was exhausted from walking back and forth, and in between, she was running between the two hills because she was concerned. She needs the water quickly. At that moment, Allah caused the water to come out from the ground. And this source of water ended up becoming known as the well of Zamzam, Zamzam water. And this Zamzam water continued to flow all the way until today. Millions of people drink from this water all the time for thousands of years, and it just keeps on flowing and flowing. So now that there's a source of water in Mecca, still nobody's living there. It's just Hajar and it's her son Ismail. So what happens is that there was a tribe that passed by and they noticed there's this brand new source of water in the valley. Because they would go and send people out and they could tell with the birds and they could tell the animals are going near water sources. So now they're like, hey, we've been down this route. There was never water there before. Now there's water. So eventually that tribe settled in Mecca because of the water, and Hajar and Ismail, they joined that tribe and they were not left alone. And so we'll stop right there and we will continue next week, inshallah. Are there any questions anyone has? I think Adhan time has already come in, so we need to call Adhan. We'll leave the questions for next time, inshallah. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum.